The excavation bucket weighed nearly 70 tons when it hit the ground. Steel teeth slammed into ancient soil with enough force to tear through collapsed walls, burial chambers, pottery layers, and human history all at once. The machine moved slowly, almost mechanically calm, while operators above ground watched centuries disappear beneath rotating gears and hydraulic arms designed for mining, not archaeology. By the time the engine stopped, an entire section of civilization was already gone forever. This became one of the great contradictions of modern archaeology. The deeper industrial civilization expanded into excavation technology. The faster humanity uncovered the ancient world buried beneath it. Giant trenching machines exposed lost cities hidden for thousands of years under desert sand, volcanic ash, jungle sediment, and urban development. Massive hydraulic excavators opened tomb complexes no human eye had seen since antiquity. But the machines did not understand what they were touching. Ancient walls shattered under industrial pressure. Burial sites collapsed before researchers could document them. Fragile inscriptions disappeared beneath bulldozer tracks. Entire archaeological layers, each one representing centuries of human life, were sometimes erased in hours by machines powerful enough to reshape landscapes. Governments wanted roads, mining companies wanted minerals, developers wanted land, and archaeologists were forced into a race against industrial excavation itself. Because once the machine arrived, history suddenly had a deadline. By the 20th century, giant excavation systems had become capable of removing more earth in a single day than ancient civilizations could move in years. Some machines uncovered extraordinary forgotten worlds beneath the ground. Others destroyed the only evidence those worlds had ever existed. And in many cases, the same machine did both simultaneously. Before industrial excavation machines arrived, uncovering the ancient world was painfully slow. Sometimes impossibly slow. For most of human history, archaeology barely existed as a formal science at all. Ancient ruins were discovered accidentally during farming, warfare, mining, or construction. Buried cities emerged gradually through erosion or collapse. Treasure hunters dug crude pits, searching for gold, statues, or relics, with little concern for preserving historical context. The earth kept its secrets because removing it required enormous human labor. A single buried structure could disappear beneath centuries of sediment, volcanic ash, collapsed architecture, and urban expansion. Excavating such sites manually demanded years of digging under dangerous conditions, using shovels, baskets, ropes, chisels, and animal transport systems, little different from ancient methods themselves. The deeper archaeologists tried to investigate, the harder the work became. Buried civilizations are heavy. Stone walls collapse inward over time. Roofs cave into chambers. Flood sediment hardens into compact layers almost like concrete. Entire cities sink beneath newer settlements as generations build over the ruins of older worlds. Some archaeological sites accumulated dozens of historical layers stacked vertically beneath the surface, each representing centuries of human occupation compressed underground. Excavating these environments manually became a brutal physical process. Workers spent months removing earth one basket at a time beneath intense heat, dust, and collapse danger. Early archaeological crews often operated inside unstable trenches without proper reinforcement, while exposed to disease, dehydration, and structural failure. In Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Central America, laborers excavated beneath desert sun or jungle humidity severe enough to destroy equipment and bodies alike. And time itself became the enemy. Because industrial civilization was expanding faster than archaeology could excavate. By the 19th century, railroads, mining operations, canals, factories, dams, and urban construction projects were transforming landscapes across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas. Entire ancient sites disappeared beneath modern infrastructure before researchers even realized they existed. cities expanded directly over buried civilizations. Road crews uncovered ruins accidentally and destroyed them before documentation could begin. Mining companies blasted through archaeological layers searching for ore. River engineering projects submerged ancient settlements beneath reservoirs permanently. History was vanishing faster than human hands could uncover it. This created a terrifying contradiction for early archaeologists. Manual excavation preserved detail but operated too slowly. Industrial expansion operated quickly but destroyed context. And context is everything in archaeology. An artifact alone means very little without understanding where it was found, what surrounded it, how deep it was buried, and which historical layer contained it. A shattered pot discovered inside a burial chamber tells a completely different story than the same pot displaced by flooding centuries later. The Earth itself functions like historical memory. Each layer preserves sequence. Disturb the layers too aggressively, and the timeline collapses. But industrial civilization did not have patience for delicate excavation. Governments wanted roads completed. Developers wanted foundations cleared. Mining operations wanted land opened immediately. Ancient ruins increasingly became obstacles, standing in the path of modern expansion. Archaeologists needed speed. That need transformed excavation forever. At first, industrial excavation machinery entered archaeology indirectly through construction and mining equipment. Steam shovels, trenching systems, rail-mounted excavators, and mechanical dredges were designed primarily for infrastructure projects, not historical preservation. These machines existed to move enormous quantities of earth rapidly and efficiently, and they were terrifyingly effective. A single steam shovel could remove more soil in one day than dozens of workers using manual methods. Hydraulic excavators expanded the scale further still. Suddenly, buried walls, roads, foundations, and entire city grids emerged from beneath the earth with unprecedented speed. For archaeology, this seemed revolutionary. Large sites that once required decades of labor could now be exposed in months. But the machine introduced a new danger. Ancient civilizations are fragile. Stone decays underground. Organic materials survive only under specific environmental conditions. Tomb chambers collapse after exposure to air. Frescoes disintegrate once moisture conditions change. Human remains fracture under vibration and pressure. Excavation machines could not distinguish between ordinary soil and irreplaceable history. To the machine, everything was material, and the machine was hungry. Some of the earliest industrial excavation disasters occurred during railway and canal construction across Europe and the Middle East during the 19th century. Workers uncovered burial grounds, ancient roads, temples, and settlements accidentally while using heavy excavation systems designed for speed rather than preservation. Many discoveries were destroyed before scholars even arrived. Walls collapsed beneath mechanical digging pressure. Inscriptions shattered during debris removal. Burial chambers were looted rapidly once exposed because industrial excavation attracted crowds, workers, and opportunists immediately. Entire historical layers disappeared in days. At the same time, archaeologists themselves began relying increasingly on industrial machinery because the scale of buried history was becoming overwhelming. Ancient cities like Troy, Babylon, Pompeii, and countless others existed beneath enormous accumulations of debris and sediment, impossible to remove efficiently through manual labor alone. The old methods could no longer keep pace. Some excavation sites contained millions of cubic feet of earth. Others lay buried beneath modern urban development, requiring rapid salvage archaeology before construction deadlines erased the evidence permanently. And beneath all of this existed another pressure: national obsession. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, archaeology became tied to imperial competition, museum acquisition, and national prestige. European powers raced to uncover ancient civilizations, partly for scholarship, but also for political symbolism and cultural dominance. Museums wanted monumental discoveries, governments wanted proof of historical legitimacy. Universities wanted excavation results faster than rival institutions. The buried world became contested territory. This intensified demand for large-scale excavation systems capable of uncovering spectacular discoveries rapidly. Trenches widened, digging accelerated. Heavy machinery expanded into archaeological operations directly, because speed now mattered almost as much as preservation. Some archaeologists resisted fiercely. Others embraced the machine, and the machine kept growing larger. Steam-powered excavators evolved into diesel trenchers, hydraulic diggers, tracked earthmovers, and gigantic bucket wheel systems capable of removing landscapes section by section. Machines originally built for mining and infrastructure increasingly operated near archaeological zones, because industrial expansion and buried history often occupied the same ground. The contradiction became unavoidable. The machine could uncover civilizations humanity would never otherwise find. But the same machine could destroy the evidence before anyone fully understood what had been discovered. And once the steel bucket struck the earth, there was often no way to reverse the damage. The buried excavation machine was not invented for archaeology. It was invented for industrial hunger. Railroads needed tunnels. Cities needed foundations. Mining companies needed ore. Canals, highways, pipelines, dams, and ports demanded earth removal at scales human labor alone could no longer sustain. By the middle of the 19th century, industrial civilization had entered an age where landscapes themselves became raw material, and excavation became mechanized violence. The Earth's large-scale excavation systems emerged from mining and railway expansion during the Industrial Revolution. Steam shovels appeared first. Gigantic iron machines mounted on rail platforms capable of scooping enormous quantities of earth using cable-operated buckets driven by steam engines. Compared to manual labor, the increase in power was staggering. A crew of workers with shovels might remove several cubic yards of earth in a day under brutal conditions. A steam shovel could remove hundreds. Railroads crossing mountains and deserts suddenly became economically possible because machines could now carve through terrain fast enough to satisfy industrial expansion. The machine changed humanity's relationship with the ground itself. Earth was no longer an obstacle. It became removable, and wherever the machine dug deeply enough, history appeared underneath. In Europe, railway construction repeatedly exposed Roman roads, burial grounds, collapsed fortifications, and forgotten settlements buried beneath centuries of urban growth. Canal projects uncovered ancient ports and submerged infrastructure. Mining operations broke into sealed chambers, untouched for thousands of years. At first, these discoveries were treated almost accidentally. Industrial crews focused on progress, not preservation. Ancient ruins were obstacles interrupting schedules and budgets. Engineers wanted trenches completed, not historical investigations. Entire archaeological sites vanished beneath rail corridors and factories because excavation machinery moved faster than scholars could respond. But by the late 19th century, governments and museums began realizing something extraordinary. Industrial excavation was exposing lost civilizations at unprecedented scale. Suddenly, archaeology entered a new era. Before mechanized excavation, uncovering a buried city could consume decades of labor. Ancient sites remained partially hidden, because removing the overburden manually was simply too expensive and physically exhausting. Many civilizations stayed buried not because no one searched for them, but because reaching them required moving mountains of earth. The machine solved that problem instantly, and archaeology became addicted to speed. European imperial powers expanded excavations aggressively across Egypt, Mesopotamia, Anatolia, Greece, and the Americas, searching for monumental discoveries that could fill museums and reinforce political prestige. Excavation transformed into a race between empires. Britain wanted Assyrian reliefs. France wanted Egyptian monuments. Germany wanted Babylon. The Ottoman Empire struggled to control foreign excavation teams, removing artifacts from territories already weakened politically. Buried history became industrial competition. This demand accelerated mechanized excavation directly. Steam cranes lifted collapsed stone blocks impossible for manual crews to move safely. Rail-mounted digging systems opened enormous trenches across ancient settlement layers. Mechanical dredges excavated submerged ruins near harbors and river systems. Some archaeologists resisted these methods fiercely because they understood the danger immediately. Ancient history survives through context. Once heavy excavation machinery disturbs stratigraphy, the layered sequence of soil, architecture, ash, debris, and artifacts accumulated over centuries, information disappears permanently. A machine bucket does not recognize delicate transitions between historical periods. It removes everything together, and yet the pressure to excavate faster kept growing. Because industrial civilization itself was threatening archaeological sites everywhere simultaneously. Modern cities expanded over ancient ones continuously. Roads, pipelines, mining projects, hydroelectric dams, and urban construction destroyed buried history daily. Governments realized that if archaeology remained entirely manual, enormous portions of human history would vanish before researchers could even document them. This created the logic behind salvage archaeology. Excavate now, or lose everything forever. By the early 20th century, excavation machinery became increasingly specialized. Diesel-powered earthmovers replaced older steam systems. Hydraulic excavators introduced greater control and flexibility. Tracked machines operated across unstable terrain where rail-mounted equipment struggled. And war accelerated everything. The World Wars transformed excavation technology dramatically because military engineering demanded rapid trench construction, bunker systems, tunnel excavation, airfield leveling, and debris clearance. Machines grew larger, stronger, and more mobile under wartime pressure. After the wars ended, those technologies flowed directly into civilian industry and archaeology. Suddenly, excavation machines originally designed for battlefield engineering were exposing ancient cities buried beneath deserts and forests worldwide. The scale became almost unimaginable. At sites like Pompeii, industrial excavation methods expanded archaeological reach dramatically. In Egypt, heavy lifting systems allowed researchers to move colossal stone sections from collapsed temples. In Mesopotamia, mechanized trenching exposed enormous urban layouts hidden beneath sediment mounds, called tells, layered archaeological hills created by thousands of years of repeated settlement. But every discovery carried destruction alongside it, because the machine could reveal history faster than humans could study it. Some excavations became infamous for their brutality. Heinrich Schliemann's excavations at Troy during the 19th century used aggressive trenching methods that destroyed upper archaeological layers while searching for older, legendary remains beneath. Entire periods of human occupation were damaged permanently because the obsession with discovery outweighed preservation. The machine intensified this mindset. Archaeology increasingly rewarded spectacular finds rather than patient documentation. Giant trenches photographed well. Monumental discoveries attracted funding and political attention. Museums wanted artifacts quickly enough to satisfy public fascination with ancient civilizations. Meanwhile, construction and mining industries continued threatening sites globally. Some of the largest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century occurred only because industrial excavation accidentally exposed them moments before destruction. Tomb complexes appeared beneath highway projects. Ancient settlements emerged during dam construction. Mining surveys revealed buried structures hidden beneath desert terrain. Archaeologists began working against deadlines imposed by machines larger than the excavation teams themselves. This pressure transformed excavation into crisis management. Developers wanted schedules maintained. Governments wanted infrastructure completed. Corporations wanted land cleared. Archaeologists wanted time. Usually the machine won, and the machines kept growing more powerful. Bucket wheel excavators eventually reached scales resembling moving industrial cities. Some mining systems could remove tens of thousands of tons of earth every hour continuously. Hydraulic excavators developed enough precision to operate near sensitive sites, but their sheer power remained terrifying around fragile ruins. One mistake from an operator could erase centuries of evidence instantly. Still, archaeology could no longer survive without the machine. Because industrial civilization had already buried the ancient world beneath roads, factories, urban expansion, and modern infrastructure. Without mechanized excavation, countless buried civilizations would remain inaccessible forever. The contradiction became permanent. The machine was destroying the ancient world, and simultaneously becoming the only reason much of that world could still be found at all. The buried excavation machine operated with a simple philosophy: remove the earth faster than history could hide beneath it. Everything else came afterward. By the 20th century, industrial excavation systems had evolved into enormous hydraulic organisms designed to overpower terrain itself. Some machines weighed hundreds of tons. Others stretched across excavation sites like moving steel fortresses, consuming soil, rock, collapsed architecture, and ancient debris continuously through rotating buckets, tracked drives, and hydraulic arms powerful enough to tear through compacted ground untouched for thousands of years. The machine did not dig carefully. It consumed layers. At the center of most modern excavation systems sat hydraulic force. Earlier steam shovels relied on cables and steam pressure, but hydraulic excavators transformed excavation completely by allowing enormous mechanical power to move with controlled precision. Pressurized fluid traveled through steel cylinders, capable of moving articulated arms with terrifying strength. An operator barely moving a control lever could direct enough force to rip apart stone walls buried since antiquity. The excavation arm itself became an extension of industrial muscle. Large hydraulic excavators often used buckets fitted with hardened steel teeth designed originally for mining and infrastructure work. These teeth concentrated enormous pressure into narrow contact points, capable of penetrating compacted earth, fractured rock, and collapsed architectural layers quickly. Inside archaeological zones, that power became deeply dangerous. Ancient ruins rarely survive underground intact. Stone weakens over centuries through moisture, seismic movement, erosion, salt expansion, and biological growth. Wooden structures collapse into compressed organic layers barely distinguishable from surrounding soil. Human remains become fragile enough to disintegrate under vibration alone. But the machine cannot feel fragility. It only feels resistance. And resistance is meant to be overcome. Some excavation systems operated through direct digging. Others used trenching chains rotating continuously through the earth like industrial saws. Bucket wheel excavators expanded the scale further still. These colossal machines carried rotating wheels lined with enormous scoops, capable of removing thousands of tons of earth every hour without stopping. The sound resembled permanent thunder, steel grinding against stone, hydraulic pumps pulsing under pressure, diesel engines vibrating through the ground itself, and beneath the noise, the buried world breaking apart layer by layer. Inside archaeological salvage zones, excavation often became choreography between humans and machines. Surveyors marked suspected structures, while operators attempted to remove overburden, without collapsing fragile remains underneath. Spotters watched bucket angles constantly, because a single misjudged movement could destroy inscriptions, burial chambers, or architectural transitions impossible to reconstruct afterward. The machine demanded speed. Archaeology demanded hesitation. Those demands rarely aligned. Ground-penetrating radar and aerial surveys eventually improved targeting. But for much of the 20th century, excavation crews often entered sites with incomplete understanding of what actually existed underground. Massive trenches exposed walls, roads, foundations, drainage systems, and tomb complexes suddenly without warning. Some discoveries appeared almost violently. A steel bucket tears downward through compacted soil. Then painted plaster emerges beneath the dust. Human bones collapse into sunlight after remaining sealed for centuries. Entire rooms open beneath the machine unexpectedly, and surrounding all of it remains the pressure to continue digging. Industrial excavation sites operated according to schedules measured in fuel consumption, labor cost, and machine efficiency. Archaeological teams working alongside construction projects often had only days or weeks to document discoveries before excavation resumed. The machine did not wait for history. Hydraulic systems themselves became increasingly sophisticated over time. Modern excavators used articulated boom arms capable of operating with remarkable control compared to earlier steam-driven systems. Operators inside climate-controlled cabins manipulated joysticks connected to hydraulic circuits, transmitting pressure through hoses thicker than human arms. Yet even controlled precision at this scale remained destructive. Large excavators exerted enough force to destabilize surrounding ground accidentally. Vibrations traveled through buried structures before researchers fully understood what lay beneath. Heavy tracked systems compressed archaeological layers permanently simply by moving across sensitive sites. And then there was dust. Excavation sites became airborne storms of powdered history. Ancient plaster, ash, soil, organic remains, charcoal, and fragmented architecture mixed together beneath machine movement. Fine particulate clouds entered lungs, cameras, survey equipment, and exposed artifacts continuously. Preservation became increasingly difficult. Underground environments opened suddenly to sunlight, oxygen, moisture variation, and industrial disturbance. The buried world had survived precisely because it remained buried. The machine changed that instantly. In mining regions, the scale became even larger. Industrial bucket wheel excavators operating in coal and mineral extraction sometimes uncovered entire settlements accidentally while removing overburden. Some machines stood taller than buildings and moved across excavation zones using gigantic tracked platforms distributing their immense weight across the ground below. Watching them approach ancient sites felt almost apocalyptic. Entire landscapes disappeared section by section beneath rotating steel systems designed for uninterrupted consumption of Earth itself. Yet the machine also revealed things human beings would never otherwise see. Massive urban layouts emerged beneath deserts once excavation accelerated. Entire temple complexes hidden beneath jungle growth became accessible through mechanized clearing systems. Buried ports, roads, defensive walls, irrigation networks, and forgotten cities surfaced because industrial excavation possessed enough strength to reach them finally. This was the contradiction living inside the machine. Its violence uncovered beauty. Its destruction produced knowledge. And every improvement in excavation technology intensified both outcomes simultaneously. Modern archaeological excavators eventually developed specialized buckets, vibration reduction systems, laser guidance tools, and finer hydraulic controls intended to reduce accidental destruction. Smaller precision machines replaced larger systems near delicate areas whenever possible, but the fundamental reality never changed. The machine still existed to move Earth faster than human labor could manage manually. Everything else remained secondary. And beneath the surface, ancient civilizations were rarely prepared for the speed at which industrial excavation could reach them, because the buried world evolved slowly, Layers accumulated over centuries. Cities collapsed gradually. Sediment settled patiently across generations. Then the excavation machine arrived, and thousands of years vanished in a single afternoon. The buried excavation machine changed archaeology forever. But it also taught archaeologists something deeply disturbing. The faster humanity became capable of uncovering the past, the faster it became capable of destroying it. Because excavation is irreversible. Once the ground is opened, history begins dying immediately. You climb down into the trench before sunrise. The excavation walls tower above you in layers of compressed centuries. Ash, brick, collapsed timber, pottery fragments, burial sediment, ancient refuse. The machine has already removed thousands of tons of earth before your shift even begins. And somewhere beneath your boots, an entire civilization is waiting. The hydraulic excavator idles nearby. Its engine vibrates through the trench floor, while diesel smoke drifts across exposed stonework that has not seen sunlight for 2,000 years. Operators inside the cab watch hand signals from archaeologists standing dangerously close to the excavation edge. One mistake from the machine could erase an irreplaceable section of history instantly, and everyone knows it. Because the machine does not understand discovery, it only understands removal. This created enormous psychological strain inside modern archaeology. Excavation crews often worked under impossible deadlines imposed by construction companies, mining operations, dam projects, or urban expansion schedules. Archaeologists became emergency workers, racing against industrial destruction already underway around them. Sometimes they lost. Entire archaeological landscapes vanished beneath highways before documentation finished. Ancient settlements disappeared under reservoirs created by hydroelectric dams. Mining operations consumed buried cities layer by layer, searching for coal, copper, and rare minerals beneath them. The machine uncovered civilizations, then buried them again beneath modern infrastructure. Some of the worst losses occurred during the 20th century, when industrial expansion accelerated globally faster than preservation laws could adapt. In parts of the Middle East, ancient Mesopotamian sites were damaged heavily through mechanized agriculture and construction before proper archaeological surveys existed. In China, Egypt, South America, and Central Asia, countless undocumented sites likely disappeared entirely beneath modern development. History was erased by progress before anyone realized what had been lost, and even successful excavations carried destruction within them. The moment an ancient tomb opens, environmental equilibrium collapses. Air enters sealed chambers for the first time in centuries or millennia. Humidity changes instantly. Organic materials begin decaying after exposure to oxygen and bacteria. Wall paintings crack. Wooden artifacts warp. Human remains deteriorate rapidly once protective underground conditions vanish. The machine accelerated this exposure process enormously. Large-scale excavation could uncover entire architectural complexes within days. But conservation teams often lacked resources to stabilize discoveries fast enough. Some ruins deteriorated more rapidly after excavation than they had during centuries underground. The buried world had survived precisely because it remained hidden. And now industrial civilization was dragging it into the light at mechanical speed. The human cost extended beyond archaeology itself. Excavation workers frequently operated inside unstable trenches vulnerable to collapse. Heavy machinery accidents crushed laborers during large-scale digs. Dust exposure damaged lungs. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, and falling debris remained constant risks at excavation sites across deserts, jungles, and urban construction zones. Then there were the looters. Industrial excavation often exposed ancient sites faster than governments could secure them. Once rumors spread about discoveries, organized theft followed rapidly. Tomb robbers used modern tools and machinery to raid exposed chambers before archaeologists completed documentation. Entire artifacts disappeared into black markets, feeding private collectors worldwide. Sometimes the machine uncovered history only long enough for it to be stolen. And yet, despite all of this destruction, the excavation machine transformed humanity's understanding of itself more profoundly than almost any other industrial system. Because the buried world was far larger than anyone expected. Modern excavation revealed entire forgotten civilizations beneath deserts, forests, and modern cities. Ancient sewer systems, underground temples, collapsed ports, irrigation networks, road systems, defensive walls, workshops, and urban neighborhoods emerged from beneath the earth, at scales impossible to comprehend previously. The machine expanded historical memory itself. Civilizations once dismissed as primitive revealed astonishing engineering sophistication once excavation reached deeper layers. Entire cultures thought mythical suddenly became physically real beneath the steel bucket. But archaeology also changed because of the machine. Earlier excavations often resembled treasure hunting. Modern archaeology evolved increasingly toward preservation science, precisely because industrial excavation demonstrated how fragile historical context truly was. Stratigraphy, conservation protocols, precision surveying, digital mapping, and rescue archaeology all developed partly in response to the damage mechanized excavation could cause. The machine forced archaeology to mature scientifically. At the same time, new technologies began replacing older destructive methods gradually. Ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR scanning, satellite imaging, and digital subsurface mapping now allow archaeologists to investigate buried structures without immediate excavation. Some ancient cities can be reconstructed digitally before a single trench is opened. The machine is no longer the only way to see underground, but it still remains unavoidable. Modern civilization continues building roads, tunnels, pipelines, dams, subways, mines, and cities directly through ancient landscapes. Excavation machines remain permanently entangled with archaeology because industrial expansion still moves faster than preservation efforts almost everywhere on Earth. And beneath modern cities, countless buried worlds likely remain undiscovered. Entire civilizations still sleep under parking lots, apartment towers, farmland, deserts, and industrial zones. Some may never be found until construction machines strike stone unexpectedly beneath the ground. Then the race begins again. Survey crews arrive, archaeologists descend into the trench, and the machine waits nearby with its engine running. That may be the final legacy of the buried excavation machine. It turned human history into something temporary, not because the past disappeared naturally, but because industrial civilization became powerful enough to uncover and destroy ancient worlds simultaneously at unprecedented speed. The machine gave humanity access to buried civilizations once thought lost forever. But it also proved that history itself can be erased faster than we are capable of understanding it.